People look at stories through different lenses. I have my own personal take on some of these trending issues. Hi, I'm Mariah Ramharack and welcome to In Case You Missed It. Manchester United's long spell of trophy-less frustration under former player-turned-coach Ole Gunnar Solskjaer continued last week after a crushing loss to Villarreal at the final hurdle, the Europa League final. Domestically, he can point to a comfortable second-place finish in the EPL as part of his achievements this season, but should it be enough to keep him in the job? Well, the Olympic Games is fast approaching, but increasingly the IOC seems to be facing a long list of problems. With 2 months to go, what's the status in Tokyo?
Welcome to another edition of In Case You Missed It. Don't forget to stay tuned for our interactive section where I'll review a few of your social media comments from last week's episode. Let's get started. As a player, the man who fittingly earned the moniker, the baby-faced assassin, was known for coming off the bench to deliver big when the Red Devils needed it the most. As a coach, so far anyway, it is ironic that he's becoming known for doing just the opposite. Starting as a prohibitive favourite against Villarreal, only to lose via the dreaded penalty shootout, was a bitter pill for Man U fans to swallow. When taken into context with this prior record of losing 3 semi-finals in the EFL Cup, FA Cup and previous Europa League competition, the alarm bells, or for some, the death knells, may already be ringing loudly. When asked if United had a successful season, Solskjaer replied no. A brutally honest answer, but also the right one. A second-place finish in the Premier League as the season's lone achievement might be good enough for some clubs, but not Manchester United. And Ole knows it. He has had 4 years to bring the team to the standard that he himself, judging by his answer, knows is needed and required. If he has repeatedly failed to do so, it begs the question, why has the club continued to put trust in him? Is it simply because he's a former player? For some, the loss was also a glaring symbol of what they believe are Ole's tactical shortcomings. Asked why he took 100 minutes to make his first substitution, Solskjaer replied, "We felt the players out there, Mason, Marcus, Bruno, Eddie, match winners, can create anything. Scott, who I thought was the best player on the pitch, and Paul. So it's difficult to make that change, especially when Fred has been injured for a week. We just couldn't create enough chances to win the game." Matched up against the tactical expertise of the experienced Unai Emery, a bit of a Europa League specialist who successfully blunted the ambitions of a superior team for most of the game, one would have hoped he had more up his sleeve than depending mostly on the talent of his players. It is blatantly obvious that in order for Ole to be successful with his current acumen and experience, the Norwegian needs help from United's owners. By that I mean he needs more money to buy better quality players. In light of the financial crunch brought about by the coronavirus pandemic, that sort of money might simply not exist. In addition, United's wage bill is already among the highest in Europe, so major additions may not be on the cards. An immediate solution could be to get more out of the current squad, and in that regard, Solskjaer may have reached his ceiling. While also making the headlines this week, the Tokyo Olympics are due to start in less than 2 months, July 23rd to be exact. This despite a surge of COVID cases in Japan. Just to be clear, the staging of the Olympic Games involves 33 competitions and 339 events held across 42 venues. That alone in the current circumstances could make the risk to the health of participants a significant one. The obvious question here is, are we prioritizing economic profit over health? With 720,000 cases and 12,200 deaths since last year, Japan is currently in a state of emergency. The country began vaccinating its population later than most other developing nations, and as such, only about 2.9 million people, or 2.3% of the Japanese population, are fully vaccinated. Worryingly, recent polls show that the majority of the population, nearly 70%, are opposed to hosting the Games. Several towns which were set to host the athletes across the Tokyo region have reportedly pulled out for fear the program might help spread COVID and put pressure on the healthcare system. The World Players Association, which represents 85,000 athletes in over 60 countries, has demanded the IOC must do more to ensure athletes' safety, calling for stricter physical distancing and more rigorous testing. It also wants the IOC to revoke its demand that athletes sign waivers as a condition of participation. Well, given all these issues and genuine concerns, it is perhaps time for the IOC to reassess the real value and cost of attempting to go ahead with the event, given the current situation. However, given that the IOC has repeatedly insisted the Games can go ahead safely, even under a state of emergency, the chances of them pulling the plug seems slim to none. Well, before we wrap this week's episode, let's address some of those comments that stood out from last week. Ronaldo, I don't think the squad is perfect. We do have some work to do before we even think about competing with the best nations. Mikhail Burke, you're poking fun at my team, Manchester City. I see. You're right, the youngsters have work to do to earn their spots, so that's the only way the veterans can move on. And Kareem Niles, as a journalist, I focus on the numbers and the facts, and I respect every player. Moreover, I like to think of myself as a Caribbean person and not label myself based on country, particularly when it comes to the game we all love passionately as one people, West Indies cricket. I actually have a lot of time for Shimron Hetmyer, and I accept he could be a force to be reckoned with once he settles down and produces with the bat. Well, as usual, it has been a pleasure hearing your views, and I look forward to hearing from you again next week. That's a wrap for this week's In Case You Missed It. Be sure to like, share and comment, and I look forward to hearing what you think about this week's topics. Stay safe, and I'll see you next week.